Hello, you're watching my YouTube channel. I'm your host, Kamran Arshad. Today, I've invited a guest in this video, and I want to discuss her life, her visions, her goals, and most importantly, her faith. Hello and welcome. We are delighted to have uh, Brandy Beckert here today with us. Brandy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure to be here talking with you today,
How
Cameron.
are you doing
How
today,
are
first of
you? How
all?
are things going?
I'm great. How about you?
Oh, wow. Finally, the heat broke over here in the eastern United States, and the last couple of days have been very pleasant. So I'm
All
trying
right.
to enjoy the outdoors a little bit in the last few days. And
Hmm.
yeah, I'm enjoying myself. So I'm having a good time.
All right, Brandy, before to start this interview properly, could you please tell us what inspired you to pursue a career as a transgender activist and perhaps share a bit about your journey leading up to your current role? Because when I heard the word activist, so I thought uh, there are a lot of responsibilities of an activist, right? So could you please share about your journey, a bit about your journey and what duties as an activist you are performing?
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you for that question and make me think where like my roots. My roots as a transgender activist have to start with my discovering my gender identity.
Yeah,
That's right. I
yeah.
discovered my gender identity in 2015. I was 42 years old and I was questioning like all aspects of my life. And I wanted to ask myself honest and earnest questions about myself. And I wanted to answer those questions with sincerity, but brutal honesty. And when I started tapping into myself, and for the first time in my life, when I ever questioned my gender identity, it was the first time I put on a dress. The first time I was actually trying to explore my sexuality, but I don't want to get into that story right now. We're going to talk about gender instead. Trying to explore my gender out, my sexuality, I tapped into something that's not sexuality, is my gender identity. And it blew me away. I had an epiphany that moment, that day. I remember the exact day. It was January 7th, 2015. The first time I ever questioned my gender identity openly and honestly with myself. And when I looked inside and I realized that my gender identity it's not what I was assigned at birth. It's not what society has impressed on me to portray, to try to perform. That assignment, I tried to perform an assignment that was put on me at birth. And through most of my life, I tried to perform it, but I never questioned why I was so uncomfortable in my own skin. And
Mm.
most of my life, I I couldn't feel comfortable being me, and I couldn't figure out why. Because I didn't ask that question. I didn't look inside myself and really ask the question, what is my gender identity? What does it look like when I close my eyes and I imagine me, the core of me? What does that look like when we put it into our concept of gender? And for me, I was like, oh my goodness, it's feminine. Inside of me is a strong feminine person. And I was like, I want to express that. And immediately, I didn't stay in the closet. I literally went out to a club that night. I questioned my gender identity. I went out dressed in feminine clothing. I looked awful, but it felt amazing because for the first time in my life, I was expressing who I am tapping into and getting to know and exploring this person in me, this me that I didn't realize I wasn't tapping into for most of my life because I looked to society to tell me what I should perform and to tell me how I should express.
You
When
are
I looked
right.
inside and
Brandy,
questioned
I want to
myself,
ask something. Because you are telling me about your journey when you discover yourself that you are a transgender.
Yes,
So what
that's
was the
the start.
response of the people around you at that time?
I didn't care. At that time, that moment was about me. And it's my journey and my transition. What we call a transition is, let's break it down this way. Your gender identity is your inner self. When you look inside, that's your gender identity. Your gender expression is how you express or how you pull that vision of yourself inward to outward. And gender performance is how you interact with society around you and your own gender identity. So discovering my gender identity and wanting to express that and trying to pull that inner person and show society, show the world what I see when I look on the inside, and trying to get that close, that is my transition. All I'm trying to do is pull what I see inside of me and show the world.
Okay.
And we call that a transition.
Brandy,
What we really should be calling it is an expression of someone's identity. It shouldn't be called a transition, really.
Okay.
But go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
What biggest change did you feel after discovering yourself?
Say that again.
What biggest change did you feel when you discover yourself, your transitional process when completed? What is the biggest change in you right now after discovering yourself that you are a transgender?
The biggest thing I noticed when I started to express my gender identity, who I am, was I started to feel comfortable in my own skin. For the first time in my life, I started to feel comfortable being me. And I started to experience something I never experienced before in my life. I experienced gender euphoria. Have you heard of gender dysphoria, right? There's also gender euphoria. When I look in a mirror, either a social mirror where it reflects back to me from society, or a mirror on my wall where I see an image reflecting back to me. When I see that aligned with the inner image I have of myself, with my identity, that brings gender euphoria, and it feels amazing. When I first started to kind of see when I tapped into the inside of me in those mirrors, I experienced euphoria, and it was amazing. And when you cannot see that connection with your expression and your identity, you experience dysphoria, and it's very, very painful and hurtful. And I wasn't always experiencing euphoria when I first discovered my gender identity. It took a while for that expression to get somewhere close to press down on that dysphoria and start to experience euphoria. Does that make sense?
Yeah. All right. You discovered yourself, as you told us, at the age of 42, right? How old are you right now?
Yes. I am 51. I'll be 52 in October.
51?
I'll be 52 years old in October.
But you look like 26 years old. I'm not kidding. All right, let's move on, Brandy. What are some of the most significant challenges transgender individuals commonly face in their daily lives?
That question, it's really interesting. I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking there's so many ways to answer it, because when you're asking about individual lives of a transgender person,
I'm not asking this question specifically for America's transgenders. I'm asking these questions all over the world transgenders, like Pakistan, India, Australia.
No, I get you. I'm even talking about America. I'm even talking about in the same city. If you get 30 transgender individuals in the same city, they're all going to have completely different experiences, completely different challenges. But this is the way we can think of it. Like, depends on where you live, especially in the United States. In the United States, your most challenges during the day. I live in a safety bubble in the United States. In Massachusetts, the state I live in, we have protections. We protect transgender individuals in the state. So my daily worries are different than a transgender person living in Oklahoma or Arkansas or Florida or 25 other states that not only don't have protections, but have laws that harm transgender people. So if I'm living in Florida or Alabama or Utah or Ohio, my daily worries are, can I get access to the necessary medical treatments I need? That is top priority for those people. And unfortunately, a lot of them cannot.
But you know what?
I live in an area where
Transgenders
I
who
have
live in
access to
Pakistan
healthcare.
and India and Bangladesh, they are facing very difficulties. People just harass them, use them, and throw them.
Here too. Here too. Transgender people are murdered for existing here in the
Yeah.
United States. That
People
absolutely
only
happens.
think that they are made for sex. They use them and they throw them. Unfortunately.
Fetishize.
Is there any way?
Fetishize. And I think that's a narrow view of generalizing all transgender people in country X are viewed as fetishized. It can't be true because the people expressing themselves probably don't see themselves as a fetishized thing that should be thrown away. So when we look at that view, we can look at it in multiple ways. Yes, there are plenty of people who are ignorant and don't have empathy towards other people not like them. And so they can label them as not human and they can treat them as not human. But to say that an entire country treats an entire group as not human it's a problem. And unfortunately, it's not far off from true. In many places, entire societies have views of otherized, marginalized members of their society. And unfortunately, in many, many places, transgender communities and individuals have been labeled the othered and pushed to the margins of society. So when you have that situation, when people are otherized and dehumanized, as you say, when they are treated as less than human things can happen to them. And that is frightening.
Okay.
And that's what I fear is ramping up here in the United States.
Brandy, how do societal attitudes and discrimination impact the mental health and well-being of transgender people?
Well, I'm not a mental health expert, so I cannot speak to the mental health aspect of that. My background studies anthropology. And what I can tell from my experiences and from my studies in anthropology is when societies have interactions and intersectionality with otherized groups, it's not always well. And it's depend on how you read, right? So the attitude is pretty much going to be how are they educated, taught about the issue, and depends on ignorance and misinformation. If people have accurate and empathetic information about a group of people, let's say group of people X could be transgender people, could be a different group of people, but when they're looked out as other humans, as equal humans, and they're seen as they have unique qualities, but they're among the entire society and they should be a part of the entire society, the issues go away. So I think what we're really talking about is how are transgender communities dealing with the otherization and the marginalization of them in these different regions. And that's fair, because we're being marginalized and otherized differently depends on where you're at, even in the same country, even in the United States. Depends on what region of the United States you're on is going to be how the attitudes are held and how people are being treated.
Okay.
And I see it ramping up and getting worse for us.
Okay, Brandy, I want to ask one thing.
Yes.
It's a strange question. I am actually asking from myself, should I ask this or not? But definitely it's an interview, and the purpose of this interview to highlight those points which people don't know, right? Could you please confirm me, could you please share that, if it's possible for you, what is the difference between the male transgender and the female transgender?
Well, transgender is and think of the word as an adjective or an action happening. So in our society and many societies across our globe,
Mm.
we use a binary. So when we look at gender, we use that concept of gender in a binary. Not every culture does that. It's not a human thing. It's just a cultural thing. So in the United States especially, every person who is born in the United States is assigned a box for their gender. You are either assigned box A or box B for your gender. And now, if you, at any point in your life, you question whether that assignment of that box really talks to you and it describes you when you look inside yourself. And for some people, most people would agree. Most people are cis, and that's what it means to be cis, is you agree with the assignment you were given at birth. So only two choices, and humans don't exist on a two-choice binary. Humans exist on a spectrum. So that's why you get lots of people who call themselves non-binary, because on a spectrum, not everyone fits in box A or box B. So many people don't fit. For me, as an example, I'm a transgender woman. So that means I was assigned box A, we'll call it.
All right,
or
you are
we'll
a
say
female
male.
transgender, right?
Let me finish. All of the attributes in our society that we call masculine or male or man, we put into a box, and we assigned the people that box. So I was assigned this masculine man box. And then when I realized, that doesn't describe me when I look inside myself, I transition my expression, my gender expression, how we talked about how you pull that expression from inside to outside and how you present it, right? So my expression, I moved or transitioned my expression from box A to box B because it fits much nicer in the box B. If I look inside myself and it doesn't fit in either one of those boxes, I would be non-binary. But when I look inside myself, I kind of fit nicely into our concept of box B in our society. And we label all of the attributes for box B, and we call that woman or femininity, right? And so that describes me. So I am a transgender woman because woman is my identity, just like a council woman is a woman. An Indian woman is a woman. An American woman is a woman. A transgender woman is a woman.
Okay,
in United
States,
the box.
Could you please tell me, in
We
United
fit in the
States,
box,
can
but we were
transgender
assigned
marry
the
with
other
anyone?
box. I'm sorry.
Okay. In United States, in America, can transgender marry with anyone?
I don't know. I didn't quite hear you. I'm sorry, Cameron.
Can you hear me? Actually, I'm
I can
asking
hear you
about
now.
the marital status. Transgender in USA
American
or
what?
America. Transgenders in America. They can marry with anyone?
Married?
Yeah.
You're asking about getting married?
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on what state. Yeah, national. Yeah, protected. I'm married right now.
Really?
My husband, he'll be back tomorrow. He's out and about on business right now. But I am married. Yes, you can absolutely get married. We
he's
passed
a boy.
the law back in 2000 and
he's a man or he's a
2016.
transgender man?
No, my husband's a cisgender man. He was assigned box A, and he agrees with box A, and he fits nicely in the box A. Yeah, he's a heterosexual cisgender man. That's my husband works on power plants. He's a superintendent for a company that rebuilds the giant power plants in our country. He travels all over doing that. He's a very masculine, manly man.
Okay, that's great. Okay, what barriers do transgender individuals encounter when accessing healthcare, and how can these barriers be addressed?
Oh, and here in the United States, let's answer it for the United States. It's a dynamic answer, because if you asked me this 3 years ago, I could give you an easy answer. Well, yeah, there's no barriers to really stop you from getting your healthcare and services. But in 2021, Arkansas became the first state in the United States to pass a law that makes it illegal for transgender people, specifically transgender youth, to access the healthcare needs they have. And then since 2021, from 2021 to 2024, 25 states have followed suit. 25 of the 50 of the United States now have laws that make it illegal and almost impossible for transgender individuals, especially people under 18, to access the medical treatments that they need. So it is, depending on where state you are, it's become a political thing. At this point, it's political whether we get healthcare or not. I live in a state that has protections. I get my health care as much as any other citizen of Massachusetts. I have just as much access. But that could all change if the MAGA party gets in power in our country. The MAGA party has a plan called Project 2025. And in Project 2025, they're basically going to make all of those laws in the 25 states national. They're going to make it across all of the states. And in 2 years from now, if you ask me that question, or a year from now, you ask me that question, I'd probably say I am in desperate need to get healthcare, because if they get power, my access to healthcare most likely will go away.
All right.
So it's political.
Okay.
Political at this point.
Okay. Can you discuss the unique challenges transgender youth face, particularly in educational settings and family dynamics?
That depends on the family. It depends on the society you're in. It depends on if those people are educated
because I have seen a lot of people,
what
if
it
they
means
know
to be
that
transgender.
these are the transgender communities, they just make fun of them.
Can I give you an example? For me, I grew up in a household that wasn't discriminatory against LGBTQ communities. My mother and her mother and throughout our family always embraced, and it was normalized, gay people around us. And so when I came out as transgender, at least a good portion of my family, my mom did not miss a beat. My mom was there to support and help me 100% of the time from the moment I expressed to her that I am trans. My siblings stood solid and supported me. My father had a hiccup, but was right there to support me within a week or two.
They still love you?
Of course, I spend a lot of time. I talk with my mom almost daily. My grandmother and my mother were my biggest supporters when I first started my transition. That's household to household in the United States. Millions of young people in the United States are thrown out of their homes because of who they are and their sexual orientation. That is just a fact. Because of ignorance bred throughout our society, stimulating and telling people that it is bad to be other, it is bad to be LGBTQ. That is the lessons that so many people get growing up, and they don't lose those lessons, and they harm the next generation because of those harmful lessons they've learned. We need to change the paradigm on how we look at our fellow citizens, not just trans people, not just gay people, but all people, immigration. All of our immigrant people are just as much people as we are. This is just as much an issue of them attacking immigrants as them attacking inside. They're attacking the others because they're scared to lose power of their own.
Okay. And from the government side, what facilities they are providing to the transgender community?
Repeat that question one more time. I'm sorry.
I'm asking, government provide you the facilities to the transgender community? Government of United States, what facilities they provide specifically to the transgender community?
What about the transgender community? Slow down the question.
I'm asking from the government side, from the Biden's government, right? What facilities they are providing to the specific transgender community?
None. They're awful. They're awful right now. That Biden, and I am not a fan of Biden. We need to, we're hurting here in the United States. We are left political side, Biden. That is basically what we call conservatism in the 1980s. Our entire thing is shifted more conservative. We don't have a true left here in the United States. We have a centrist that we call left, and they're not necessarily helping us. We have individual states that have to protect transgender people because there's not a national protection for transgender people. There's not. And there's not a national protection for people who get here, undocumented immigrants. There's not protection for those people either. There's not protection for us, I mean. And my protection, I feel safe in my state because my state government protects me. There are 50 states, only a handful actually protect. Half of them are attacking. Half of the states in the United States are legally attacking transgender communities.
Okay.
So it's not a blank statement that our government does X.
I got
we have
your
50
answer.
governments fighting
I
about
got
this
your
issue.
answer, Brandy. Okay, how can workplaces and organizations create more inclusive environments for transgender employees and clients?
There's lots of local, it's all grassroots movements at this moment, basically, because large organizations are hard to form nationally in this topic because they keep getting smashed down. Think about half of our states make it illegal to be a youth in transgender, and the other half are scrambling to try to protect. And we don't have any national really organization that just protects trans people. We have the ACLU, that's the American Civil Liberties Union, that's a national union, and they step in and help a lot. In fact, I was at an event called Save Our Small Towns, because we had a small town pride event about 50 miles from where I live. And the year before, when this small town of about 10,000 people tried to show their pride for being trans and being queer and gay, and there was almost a riot from the ignorant people who showed up to protest them expressing who they are. And so the ACLU is a national organization that stepped in, and I went to help them this year to say, we are here to protect you. That's what it takes sometimes. But for individual transgender people, if you need assistance in law, it kind of depends on where you live and what organizations are around there. There are a lot of regional organizations, but nothing really that's just for us. Okay. Remember, we're hyper-capitalistic here. We don't have a government that sets up safety nets for us all the time.
Okay, Brandy, thank you so much for joining us today. It was wonderful having you here and learning from your experiences. Before we wrap up, is there anything you would like to share with our audience or any message you would like to leave them with?
Yes, I want to share with y'all. I have been taking my activism because I'm a public speaker. I speak all around the country here in the United States. And I prefer and I love doing in-person talks. But in the last 6 months, I've been taking my activism on the YouTube. And so I'm trying to build a channel. And I don't have a very large social media presence. So I need your help. Go to my YouTube channel and like and share the content that you find in there. And just don't like it because I asked you to. I want you to watch my content and think about what I have to say.
I'm the regular viewer for your videos, for your YouTube channel, you know?
Yeah, include a link to my YouTube channel. You can find me at Brandy Beckett.
I follow you. I always follow you.
Yes.
And your videos as well. Okay.
Awesome, thank you.
Any message or any suggestion for me?
I keep asking honest questions and exploring and listening. You're doing an awesome job, Cameron. Thank you. And if you want to chat some more, I'm here for you.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day, Brandy. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.
Have a blessed day. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.